KAYO has officially joined the fray in this upcoming Heavy Hitters set, so let's talk about why this KAYO is far different and transformative for the Brute class. So for those that don't know, KAYO existed all the way back since Crucible of War. In fact, if you didn't know, KAYO had a really cool effect back in the day. This was the old KAYO. He started at 19 health, and he was all about die rolling. It was like a 1 through 4 when you played a 6 attack, and you would have the base attack, so it would become like 3. Anything above that, like a 5 or a 6, it would double it. And unfortunately, I lost a game to this at the Armory last night on Blitz. KAYO just exploded me several times by rolling 5s at the wrong times. He was a very explosive hero in some respects, but now he returns looking like this. Missing an arm, but absolutely transforming how the card pool for Brute can be viewed via his effect. So if you didn't read him, or if you haven't checked him out yet, he's a 4 intellect, 40 health Brute hero. He's armed and dangerous, which is fantastic because he is missing an arm. You can only have 1 weapon zone because he's missing an arm, and it has to be a one-handed weapon in that weapon zone. Attack action cards you own get +1 while they're in any zone other than the combat chain. So if you try to pop a Phantasm attack with a 5, it will not pop because that is the moment that it enters the combat chain. But any other time, if you're discarding or if you're banishing or if you're finding cards off the top of the deck, they are +1, which makes all of those blue 5 attack cards, or just really any 5 attack card, now a 6 attack card for the purposes of discarding or etc. Really. The first time you discard a card with 6 or more attack during each of your action phases, create a might token, which basically just gives one of your attacks +1. You can think of this really interestingly. You can think of this like losing a weapon zone. If you're playing claws, which are 3 attack go-agains usually, you could think of you're losing out on one of those 3 attacks if you have this sort of discard package where you're going to go play some discards, maybe slash around with the claws, which never was very popular for KAYO, but functional. But if you're thinking about this interestingly, you can take away one of those claws and instead spread around that attack onto something else. So for example, you're getting +1 attack thanks to the might token based on this effect. And you're technically applying that weapons attack to all of your discard attacks. It's not a perfect analogy, but I don't know. My brain went there for the first, like when I read this card, I was like, you're giving up an arm basically to make other things in your deck more powerful, which I think is just kind of a funny like little connection. There is the young version as well, but here's why I think this card is so transformative for the card pool and why I love his design. These are all cards that are KO playable right now that are at 5 attack that can now become eligible discard targets. Look at the card pool that he now has access to discard from. This is absurd. You can you can play Ravenous Rabble and you can discard Ravenous Rabble and it's a 6 attack. I just think that's so funny. The same thing with E-Strike up here. Like those become a discardable like effects, which means you could play them in a deck and you can actually run them out there and they're not getting the buff. So they're not forcing that discard, but you have the ability to build this deck now in multiple different ways because all of these cards are now eligible to be discarded and then, you know, activate the effect of something like a Savage Feast, which is a great card. As an additional cost to play, you discard a card, a random card. If it has 6 or more attack, you draw a card, right? So there's all of these payoff, quote unquote, payoff cards. Riled Up. If you discard a card with 6 or more, Riled Up gets +1. All of these cards now, gains go again, have the payoff sort of so much more easily attainable. You can even play Wage Gold now, which is a Brute card because it says Universal. It is a 5, but it will be buffed by 6, and it can allow you to wager. This is a nice little limited combo in that deck, and you can hit discards. We can expect to see discard effects in this set, which I think is very cool. But these cards are now so much more applicable because of KAYO's effect, and this is why I like his design so much. Yes, you're losing out on an arm, and no, you can't play the Rock. I know everyone wants to play Rock, so just for you people out there that don't know, Rock is a card. Can't play this because it's a 2-handed weapon. I was at the Armory last night, and someone was like, you could play Rock, and I'm like, no, you can't. You can't hold it. You need 2 hands. Look, you got to have the hands right there. You can't play that, but what you can do is turn so many more cards in this sort of meta overall. So many more of these are now playable. Like blue Smash Instinct is so good because you could play it, yeah, and it's not going to be the worst or the best play in the world because it's a 5, right, if you're playing this, but it meets all the requirements for discard. It's a blue block 3 that is now a 6 for discard purposes. So his deck gets so much more streamlined from that. And then you look at a couple of the other cards that were spoiled alongside of him, and as an instant, you can play No Fear for 0, which is just crazy. I love the effect on this card. As an additional cost to play this, banish any number of cards with 6 or more from your hand, and when you do that, you're then going to get the next effect. But at the beginning of the end phase, you get those cards back. So you're banishing them away, meaning that you can stop one sort of thing here. I'm going to explain. You can do this once. You'll lose X amount of cards, but the next time you would be dealt damage this turn, prevent X of that damage, where X is 2, plus the number of cards banished this way. Why would this be good? Well, if we go here, there are a couple of cards that you might consider this with. Let me see. I thought I saw one of them down here. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Pulping. Pulping is a very good card. Pulping is an incredibly good card. The red has been played since it was released in Monarch. Pulping's incredible. It doesn't block. This card does not block, okay? But yes, it does, because it can now be banished to No Fear. Both the red and the yellow can be banished to No Fear. And now they block 2 plus the one that it is. So if you banish this one card, playing this, for free, and then banishing Pulping, that card now essentially blocks for 3. Technically, it's a 2-card block for 3, which doesn't feel good, but it's better than nothing. If you banish 2 of these cards, let's say you have 2 no blocks in your hand off of No Fear, and there are a couple of other no block cards. I don't think I saw any. Yep, here, Wild Ride as well. Wild Ride can also be banished off of this. So let's say you had a hand with Wild Ride and Pulping. That is definitely something that exists. You could banish both of those off of a No Fear from the arsenal, and you'll get those cards back at the end of your turn, which is very good. But in doing so, you are going to lose 2 cards that didn't block in the first place, and instead they're going to block 2, 3, 4, which is pretty solid. Those cards don't have any functionality blocking at all currently. So this card makes them block, which means that you can now run more of those types of cards and something like a No Fear, which is a Majestic. You can only run 3 of them, but you can run those and have a little bit of counterplay. You also have Bonebreaker Bellow, which is a 1-cost action that has a new mechanic called Beat Chest. And your next brute attack this turn gets +3. If you've beaten chest this turn, it gets +5. But in order to do this, you just have to trigger the beat chest effect. So when you play this as an additional cost, you can choose to discard a card with 6 or more. You choose the card. This is not a random thing. You just choose what card that you want to discard from your hand. You're good to go. Dust it off. That is a really cool effect. So you can basically say, I'm going to pay 1 for this. I'm going to discard this other card. The last card in my hand, hopefully I'm floating resources. I'm just going to play that out. It's +5. So this is a nice little go tall method. So we have go wide methods with stuff like Pulping and Wild Ride, because they have go again. And then we have go tall methods with Bonebreaker Bellow. And I think that we're going to see a lot of really interesting kind of like, what's the best way to say it? Flexibility, I think is just the best way to put it. A lot of interesting flexibility as far as deck building is concerned for KAYO. I think he's really well positioned to kind of do some crazy stuff, and he's going to take good use. He's going to make good use out of the generics in this set, especially if they're like this. Discard this, create a Might token, Mighty Windup, so you can just trigger the instant effect and just get rid of this, and you create a Might token, or it can function as a blue 5 attack, which becomes a 6 attack. And that is quite good. Same thing for Agile Windup. This is a 3 for 5, but you can discard it, create an agility token. These are the types of cards that I think KAYO is going to start with, and then he's going to be able to do some really cool, crazy stuff. I am quite excited for KAYO. I love that he is a hero that takes a card pool that you already know and messes with it and makes you want to play other cards. Like when you look at this list, think of all the things that you could do to build this deck, right? Obviously, we want to play like Discard Package. Cards like this that had no use case until this point in Dynasty, all of a sudden, have a lot more use case, because this card as a 1 for 5 is now a 1 for 5 go again off of any discard from your hand, which is quite cool. And this is the kind of thing that really gets me excited for new heroes in Flesh and Blood, when they take and they just twist the card pool. So let me know what you think about KAYO. It released yesterday. There was a ton of stuff going on. My kids unfortunately got sick, so I didn't have a chance to sit down and make a video for it yesterday. But let me know how you feel about KAYO. I am quite excited for it. I'm at this point now where I'm like, I don't know who I want to play. Like these are all such cool heroes. Like, I'm kind of into this. I think it's really cool, and I don't know where I'm going to land, because I kind of want to play all of them for different reasons. So let me know how you feel about the heroes thus far in a comment below. But this set has me perhaps more excited than maybe any of the sets in 2023. I think like this, I'm feeling it a lot. If you enjoy this video and you want to see more stuff like this, make the number go up, and then this number becomes a 7, and then an 8, and then a 9, because math, that's how it functions. As always, thanks for watching.